My secret sauce is about automation. Honestly, like a lot of these guest touch points, it's giving warm, fuzzy feelings with automated messages. I write like I talk. Like if you guys are listening a little bit right now, you can hear how my energy goes up because truly that's how I talk in real life. So when I'm writing guest messages and like writing all of my automation, I write that way because that's the kind of people that I'm trying to attract.
My name is Rodman Schley. As a real estate expert, I've invested millions of dollars in vacation properties all around the world, and I've been involved in the valuation of billions of dollars of properties. I want to share my 35 years of experience along with vacation home investment tips from the top minds in the short-term vacation rental industry. Now, let's do the work. Welcome to the Vacation Property Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Rodman Schley, and today we have another amazing guest in Tanya Rooney. Tanya is a real estate proprietor, author, and coach, helping entrepreneurs build scalable momentum by creating communities that are centered around growth, education, and authentic networking. Tanya also hosts the Tribe Builders podcast and was recently published as a co-author in a book called Hospitable Host 3, in which she talks about her secret sauce for short-term rental success. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invite. I'm super excited to chat today.
No, this is really cool. You know, we were talking a little bit off air, and you're in Wisconsin right now, actually buying a hotel.
Yes, I have been living in Wisconsin technically for like 2.5 months now, and we're working on a motel project. It's a whirlwind, to say the least.
Is it kind of a small boutique type hotel? I know you're in the short-term rental space and you've done a lot of that, but is a hotel a stretch for you, or is this kind of boutique enough where it's a little bit of a different challenge?
It is, it's all of the above. It's similar enough that I do kind of know what's going on because of my background in short-term rentals. We've been doing short-term rental for probably 3 or 4 years now. And because of that, I've been looking for a motel. This came about like in a really, really crazy roundabout way, but now we're finally up here. And it's an 18-unit boutique motel in Balsam Lake, Wisconsin. There was a partnership on it, and one of the partners left, and then I'm coming in as the new partner. So one of the partners is staying on. So we're revamping some things just to try to get a different kind of clientele here, and different kind of avatar is what we're trying to have people stay. And then so we're making some changes, and then we're doing a lot of things regarding operations, I guess I would call it, to kind of elevate and make it really awesome. So yeah, it's different. It's definitely been like drinking from a fire hose, which has been a while since I felt that feeling. But the last 2.5 months, like I very, very clearly see the parallels with short-term rentals, but then I very, very clearly see it is different from a short-term rental. Just like lots of little tiny details. It's like, oh, that's different. Now let's try to deal with that.
Yeah, but in terms of just the overall hospitality and what you're trying to achieve and trying to get that experience, that user experience is probably a lot of the same, but operationally,
Yes.
you get
Mhm.
those differences where maybe you've got a cleaning person coming in after somebody leaves a short-term vacation rental. You probably have
Mhm.
maybe cleaning crew because you've got so many different turnovers in the units and such when you get into a small hotel.
Yeah, there is a lot of differences when it comes to that. I think one of the harder things that we're dealing with right now is there wasn't an appropriate like T12, or we didn't know, like T12 is just the trailing 12 months of what business was doing about a year ago. And it's that typically tells you the health of what's happening in the market, like what does vacancy and occupancy look like? What kinds of bills are we going to expect to pay in the winter versus the summer? Because in Minnesota and Wisconsin, winters and summers are very different. And we still have people come out and play in the wintertime, especially if there's snow and ice. But we don't have any comparable data to know, like, is it $1,000 to heat this place in the
Right.
wintertime? Is it $2,000? Is it 500? So there's a lot of things that we've been trying to figure out. So, like, in addition, you mentioned the cleaners. Well, I don't know how much time I need a cleaner for. So that's been the thing that has been really crazy because they were renting this property. Absolutely. They weren't renting it to its full capacity. And they just had different plans for it, I guess is what I would call it. So they were looking for a different kind of guest clientele. And we're trying to run it just a different way. So trying to navigate all of those things it's hard because, hiring a cleaner and saying, hey, I'm really not sure if I need you for 3 hours this week or 15 hours this week. or even 30 hours this week, because we just don't know what all of that stuff looks like. And we're trying to update rooms at the same time as renting them. So that's some of the stuff it has been, like I said, a whirlwind of just trying to learn things and then trying to say, like, we're just building relationships really, really strong, or as best as we can in this market, trying to say things like, hey, I don't know how much business I can give you, or how much I need you right now, but I would love for you to still work with us. So trying to keep lines of communication open are really, really important right now, with guests, with contractors, with cleaners, with laundry people, like everything, top to bottom.
Yeah, well, and the lesson there, the thing that I heard, and I'm a data hound, and
Mhm,
not having the correct data so you can make business decisions right now.
mhm,
I would tell anybody that's out there listening who's owning short-term vacation rentals or owning, say, a hotel like you're looking at right now, have good financials. Have
mhm,
good, at least 3-year financials. So if you go to sell that property, you can lay
mhm,
financials in a person's lap. They can understand the operations, what you've historically done, what it's going to look like in the future. Instead, now you're sitting there, Tanya, going, I don't know. I don't have any data to go off of. So I'm trying to figure out my cleaning expenses. I'm trying to figure out, heating and cooling. And like you said,
mhm.
yeah, Wisconsin is a little bit different in the winter than it is in the summertime, for
Yep.
sure. But make sure that you keep good books. A lot of people buy short-term vacation properties, and they're not thinking about running it like a business. They're not thinking about, I'm going to
Mhm,
make a business out of this. It's more like, I'm going to buy this. We'll see if we can get some rental income. Maybe I can cover my costs, but they're not thinking about how much it's going to cost them to own it. What are the repairs and
mhm.
maintenance going to be? What are all the utilities going to be? What's insurance going to be? They don't think about all that stuff. So
Yeah,
always buy your properties with that in mind. The fact that you're even going, I don't have what you call it, a T12, I think is what you
a
called it,
T12. Yep, in commercial,
right?
it's T12.
Yeah, make sure that you are a property owner who goes in and really understands the expenses and then run these things like a business.
Yeah, and actually, even to expand on that just a little bit, I think people get into these businesses thinking, exactly what you said. I would love to pay my expenses. I would love to use this property, in the summertime because it's on a lake and whatever the heck it's going to be. You, for me personally, I got into the business and realized, why on earth would I take away a week of summertime in my properties? I make so much money in the summertime. That's where, we make hay. So I can't imagine taking it offline for a week. I would rather take how much money I'm making and go book somebody else's property. So that's number one. But number two, running things like a business, I think it's okay to just get into something. Honestly, like, the best way for me to learn is to just do. So if somebody is thinking about buying a property, you don't have to, like, be in paralysis just because you don't know all that stuff, but you do have to be around the people that are going to help you figure that stuff
Right.
out, because you don't, like, I mean, if somebody doesn't know what a T12 is, that's okay. Like, I'm more familiar with commercial real estate than anything. So honestly, the T12 is very, very common. A T12, a T9, a T6, whatever that is. And it just means, like, I know what the expenses are for the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. But I think if you ever want to get a short term rental, you're eventually going to get rid of that property unless you're buying it with your whole entire family. It's up north, and this is like where you guys always go, and you're going to go there until everybody in your family dies. It's going to be great because that's, like, I mean, like a family house, like in a way, a trust.
Sure.
But if you're any other person, you should always assume you want to sell that thing at some point, and you're going to want to sell a business. And right now, you might think your business is worth $800,000 because you have a $700,000 house, and then you have this amazing cleaning crew and all this stuff. Well, if you don't have anything to show them on paper, you do not have a business to sell. So I think that's a really interesting thing that people don't get into short-term rentals or even into some versions of real estate knowing, but they need to find that out so that you can be successful, because you don't want to sell that for 600,000 and then literally lose money. You want to sell it for 850 or 900,000, and you want to make some bucks on it, but you have to prove to somebody else that you're selling it to that it's worth what you're saying. And all you have to do is keep good books. And you don't have to even be the person that keeps the good books. You just need the team member that can keep good books. And if your mind doesn't work that way, it's okay. You can find somebody else to do that. But just being aware, like, you make a really, really good point. You need a business to sell, then you need to treat it like a business, not like, hey, my friends came over this weekend and they gave me $1,000 for using it. No, 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 no. Please don't do that. Yeah.
100%. And when we're even looking at properties to buy, one of the things I ask for 3 years of historical operating information. I want to see
Mhm.
3 years of expenses. I want to see 3 years of revenue. I want to see, are you trending up? Are you trending down? Where are expenses at? And if somebody comes and says, well, we don't keep any of that, I'm immediately
Mm.
out. You've lost a potential buyer
Mhm.
right out of the gates. As
Yeah.
if you are a responsible business owner when it comes to your Airbnb business and such, I mean, you will have that type of information for the buyer. Lay it in their laps, show them what's going on, give them a snapshot, and hopefully you're trending up. Hopefully you've taken a property from here and you've taken it up to here. Give them
Mhm.
that reason to pay that extra money, like you said, to buy that business that just happens to
Yeah.
be in real estate.
Yep. I think that's a beautiful thing to think and say. And it's actually more important than you would ever think. And it sucks to have to go back 3 years to figure it out because I know people who have to do that too. And it's totally possible, but it's really uncomfortable. So just do it once a year or twice a year, up to your
Yeah,
books.
yeah, for sure. And Tanya, you were a part of a book, Hospitable Host 3. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I met a gal a couple of years ago at a short-term rental conference, I guess, or an event. And this gal was kind of talking about this book that she was putting out, and I asked a little bit more. So, Hospitable Hosts we're on volume 3 right now. There was two other volumes with anywhere from 30 to 40 hosts write about their hosting experience, and they literally talk about why they love hosting, what it is they're really good at, like what's their secret sauce. So every single time the book has come out, like new hosts have come together. And it's really, really cool because it created this huge community of people that are really good at hosting and actually care about guests. It's not about, just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about like how did you make that person feel when they left? Did you give them warm fuzzies? Because honestly, the reason that I like short-term rentals is because like the money is great, but I love hosting. Like hosting is my absolute jam. I love talking to guests and finding out like what things that they like to do or why they're in town. And funnily enough, I actually don't even have to do very much to find all this stuff out. Like people think I'm a really hospitable host and most of it is automated. So I've
Mm.
put an automation on like this like nice little guest touch. But I got to write in this book last year and it was so fun. It's such a great group of people. I got to share my story about what things are awesome about hosting alongside, 35 to 40 other hosts. So, yeah, that's
So,
it.
what's your secret sauce?
My secret sauce is about automation. Honestly, like a lot of these guest touch points, it's giving warm fuzzy feelings with automated messages. I write like I talk. Like if you guys are listening a little bit right now, you can hear how my energy goes up. Because truly that's how I talk in real life. So when I'm writing guest messages and like writing all my automations, I write that way because that's the kind of people that I'm trying to attract. Like I want people like me staying in my houses, people that want to gather around with big groups. Like we typically have big houses. We've got 5 houses in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and then we have this 18-unit motel in Wisconsin. So when I'm writing to my guests in my big houses, so I have a 6-bedroom, 4-bath, and a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, and those are workhorses for sure. So when I'm writing all of my messaging, it is truly like I like my company is called Yay You're Here Properties. And it's because truly when I walk into a house and see my friends that I haven't seen maybe in a couple of weeks, I yell, yeah, I'm like, yay, oh my God, I'm so excited. And that's like how I write. And that's how I communicate with people. And the other thing about communication that's so important is that's how we get 5 stars. And I have stories, like I wrote about this in the book, that I actually had a call from a guest. It was a Saturday afternoon. They were in town for a wedding. They still had till Sunday. Well, they like sent me a message that it smelled really weird in the house. And then come to find out the sewer was blocked. It was literally a little fountain of water in the basement coming up,
Mm.
probably at least I bet a foot high,
Oh my
like
gosh.
literally of sewer water coming up. So the house smelled weird. I literally told them, hey, like you guys can't flush the toilets anymore. You can't take showers tomorrow morning. Like I tried to get, I called so many plumbers. I was able to get a plumber there, but he couldn't fix it. They needed like the bigger machine. Cut like
Mm.
fast forward 2 more days. It took them 12 hours to get this block out. Like it was so expensive. But I was still able to get 5 stars, and that
Oh
I
my
find that
gosh.
to be absolutely crazy. I know. Like, and these are my favorite stories. Like when people like when something breaks, like a ceiling leaks or the dishwasher leaks or whatever it is, sometimes you will never be able to salvage that. There are certain guests out there, it's just never going to happen. But with my experience, or in my experience, 90% of guests that I've had, they don't care about most of that. They just care about how you react. So if somebody messages me something like that, I'm messaging as fast as I can. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened while you're there. I see that it's an inconvenience. What can I do to make this right? Like, that's what I do. I don't offer money back. There's so many people that are like, I'm going to refund their whole entire stay, or I'm going to refund this. I try not to refund. It doesn't mean I won't refund. It's just I try not to, because I don't want to train guests to think that they should always ask for refunds. I ask things like, hey, what can I do to make this right? Can I get you guys a couple of cases of beer? How much longer are you guys in town? Can I buy you dinner? Can I buy, breakfast is on me tomorrow morning? Can I drop up bagels? Those people wanted a late checkout, even though it smelled weird in the house. I did offer to pay for a different place for them. Like, I'm like, I would be happy to put you guys up in a hotel instead, cancel your stay, figure this out. And they said no, because they were going to a wedding anyways. They wanted
Yeah.
bagels the next morning, and then they wanted a late checkout. And that
Yeah.
was it. And they still gave 5 stars. And that's the kind of stuff that we can do as hospitable hosts, or just hosts in general. If you like, don't tell them they're wrong, just like sympathize with them. They're on a vacation, and how you respond, like, half the time if I'm on a vacation, I'm not mad about anything. I just need you to answer. I need you to acknowledge that that this happened, acknowledge that there was a mistake made, and then move on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think people coming into the space really understand the importance of the 5 star, and that
Uh-huh.
anything under 5 stars is really not even acceptable. It's
Not
not
anymore.
good. Like, if you get
Mhm.
something under a 5, it's horrifying.
Yeah. It's so like, oh girl, it's so silly that our lives, I mean, I say any short-term rental host at this point, anybody on Airbnb, VRBO, maybe not VRBO. I don't know if they actually care as much. It seems like they don't. But anybody on Airbnb, like, Airbnb judges us on those 5 stars.
Mm.
They've literally started taking people off the platform. They literally clear them out if they have under a certain rating. And I know it's probably under 4.0, but still, when I'm shopping, like, I shop on Airbnb all the time. I'm not looking like 4.7 and below. Like, I completely don't even consider them.
Out.
If they're at a 4.8, 4.9, I'm going to start looking. It depends on maybe where we're going, what the neighborhood is, and then what me and my husband want to spend. And if we're otherwise willing to just do whatever, I will only go for 5 stars. And it's crazy that we have to like live up to these standards, but it's also like our reality. And Airbnb has literally created our reality for us, because they control who sees our houses, when we see our houses. And this is one of the reasons that it's really good idea to have your own direct booking site, because you don't want to necessarily just rely on an OTA for stuff like this, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to. But they really have groomed us to be like scared of a 4.0 or like a 4.7. I had a conversation with a guest that gave us a 4 something, and he's like, and I said, hey, what did we do wrong? Like, we want to improve. Is there something that needs to be fixed? Like, what happened? And he's just like, no, it was a great stay. Like, I'm like, but you gave us a 4. And he's like, yeah, 4 is a great rating. I'm like, actually, in our land, it really isn't anymore. They start taking people off. He's like, I looked it up. You still have like a 4.93. And I'm like, yeah. And it gets, every time we get a 4, it's going to get closer to that 4.9. And that's just like, I mean, we have 5 houses. We have hundreds of stays at this point. Like, I think we're up to 500 or 600 stays at this point.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it does start to even itself out. But we do have to care. And he actually had this conversation with me. He's like, I didn't know. And we actually even give feedback or tips. Like, every one of our fridges in our houses have this little piece of paper that says 5 stars. It was good. 4 stars, like, stuff was broken. You really need to figure your stuff out. 3 stars and under, pretty much need to shut down, kind of deal. So we try
Yeah.
to give them feedback, because really this is how our lives like work, because of the algorithm from, Airbnb. So yeah, 5 stars. Oh, 5 stars. I hate that it runs my life.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Vacation Property Seekers podcast. I want to let you know about one question that I get all the time, and that's, how do I forecast my cash flow and my profitability when investing in a vacation home? Now, if you've ever wondered that, or you know somebody who has, you're in the right place. we've created a free training called Financial Forecasting for Maximum Vacation Home Profitability. Now, in this training, we're going to guide you step by step on how to accurately project rental income, estimate your operating expenses, and calculate your returns so you can make informed investment decisions. You can access the free training at vacationpropertysecrets.com. So if you're ready to dive deeper into financial fundamentals and maximize your profitability, visit vacationpropertysecrets.com. That's a great idea, though, about having something in there because I think, you and I talked offline, same thing happened at our place. We've gotten
Mhm.
5 stars, all but one person. One person gave us a
Yep.
4-star rating, but it was a glowing 4-star rating. It was how
Mhm.
incredible it was and how incredible the staff was and how beautiful their stay
Mhm.
was and how perfect the room was. And it was so good that I'm going to give them a 4. And I was like, they just don't
Uh-huh.
understand, just like the person you were talking about. Sometimes they don't understand the star ratings that when you get under a 5, it's not necessarily a good thing. And it really hurts you in the algorithms.
Mhm.
When what you're able to see basically when Airbnb is putting
Yeah.
stuff in front of people.
Yeah, who pops up first literally matters. And this is how we like run our business. Like, and this business is tied to my livelihood. Like, I don't have a W-2. I do not have a corporate job anymore. I do some consulting, but truly, this is how I make money. This is how I feed my family. I guess, I mean, my husband has a job, but still, this is like, I mean, this stuff is really tied to a lot of things. And I think if some people even understood a little bit of that, they would probably be a little bit more generous. But yeah, we actually have like a little print off, and if anybody, listening to this wants to reach out to me, I'd be happy to show you. It's just a Canva thing, and you can get them on magnets. There's actually all kinds of them on Etsy, but I just use a laminator and just stick it to the fridge. It's fantastic because honestly, we don't. It's pretty rare that we get anything under like a 5 star because, and I think I'm just gonna assume that it's because I tell people with those words about 5 stars matter.
Yeah. Well, and you can do that very subtly. I mean, I like the idea of that magnet. So you can put a magnet on the fridge, and maybe it even says, we strive for 5 stars. Anything under a 5 star is unacceptable. So if your stay
Let us
doesn't
know.
feel like a 5-star stay, reach out to us, and we're going to make sure that you're going to have a 5-star stay.
Yeah,
Um,
and we actually do that in all of our communications too, though. That's the reason that I say, like, I'll say things like, how can we make this right? How do we make sure you're having a 5 star stay? Like, we put 5 star stay in like random communications if we need to. Because we really are like, I'm more than willing to make sure that they do have that. Like, I'm sorry if there's a spider in the house. I can't do anything about a spider. But we're also in the Midwest. In Minnesota, we don't really have like poisonous spiders.
right.
Some places that does matter, but if there's things that are in my control, I'll absolutely make them right with however I can. I try to offer food first though, which is a very Midwestern thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Very hospitable for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, you've been in it for a while now, but going back kind of to the beginning, when you got into the business, what kind of mistakes did you make? Now, when I say mistakes, I always feel like, we're all going to make mistakes. And,
Yeah.
it's really kind of a learning opportunity. We learn a lot about what we're doing in the early days. But what are some of those learning experiences that you had early on?
Oh, there's so many. I like as I was talking about the 4 stars and stuff. I remember the first time, and every time I see somebody in a Facebook group get their first 4 star, I feel so bad for them because it sucks. But you have to go through it a couple of times, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I think I'm good. Like I don't feel like it's a gut punch as bad. But I feel like in the beginning, some of that stuff, it's like how you react to 4 stars, and like I think a lot of people are eager to give refunds for things like that, but I think, as more seasoned-ish hosts like me at this point, I like want to yell at those people and be like, stop it, because you're training the guests to be jerks and to assume that they're gonna get money off their stay because they found a spider.
Yeah.
But I think in the beginning, pricing was probably my number one thing, which it like, and I'll explain a little bit more. So at first, we opened up this short-term rental. I knew some people that had short-term rentals. I would tell them, "Oh my God, we're doing so good. Let's say this was February or March. And I'm like, we're booked almost out to October. Like, this is so fantastic." Well, fast forward like 6 or 8 more months, and I realized we're booked because we're cheap. We're not priced appropriately for how awesome our product is. So, I learned in really good ways. Like I had a cut. Like honestly, one person told me something about pricing. She told me her pricing strategy and how she really only opens up her calendar 6 months at a time. And then when she
Really?
opens up her summer, it's a very specific. We're opening up our summer, and our prices are really high. And people might complain about it, but it doesn't matter if that person complains because the next three people don't care because it's
Yeah.
in a really good area. It's got good amenities. It's got good ratings and reviews. Like it's got all these things. So pricing to me was probably the biggest learning curve because once I realized I was priced way too low, now we make double to triple of what we were supposed to. And I
Oh,
don't think
wow.
we're gouging people in any way, shape, or form. Because if you like, I mean, my biggest complaint whenever we get like a bad review or like somebody dings us on value in Airbnb, I'm just like, well, you bring 14 people to a hotel and tell me how much money that's going to be because I bet you any money it's going to be more than $500 a night. Because normally, I mean, on the high end of that house or like the specific house that I'm talking about, on the high end, we might get to $500 a night, but we're typically sitting in between 250 and 450, depending on the time of year. But
Yeah.
now that I know how to price, we get so much more. It's crazy. So I think not being scared to have an empty house like during like we make all of our money in the summertime. So on off season, our goal is just we just got to break even. If we make more money, that's awesome. But as long as we have our weekends filled, we break even. So everything else is gravy. So I think not thinking, oh my god, I need to plummet my prices. Please don't plummet your prices because then you get like plummeted price people in your house, and then you're gonna have some claims. So I think pricing is really important, and then design is the other thing. Is like once we actually, made our houses a little bit cuter, that's how you stand out. If you are looking through Airbnb and everybody has gray walls and everybody has, that cow picture that I do love, by the way, but it doesn't matter. Everybody has the cow picture and everybody goes with, I don't know, farmhouse chic or something. Well, that's why you are trying to plummet your prices because you're competing with all the same people. So
Yeah.
if you elevate a little bit more, like if you want to be the cheapest, it's totally fine. Like I know the people that love to say they're the Walmart of Airbnb. I don't want to be that. So I don't want to deal with those kinds of guests. So you differentiate yourself with pricing and with design. And I think those are probably the biggest changes that that were mistakes, but are actually really great opportunities to make more and just have your houses do better.
Yeah, and you had the intelligence to go ahead and make that pivot. When you were discovered, then maybe you were underselling yourself,
Hmm.
or maybe that you were not differentiating what you had. You were smart enough
Hmm.
to pivot. A lot of people might just sit there and dwell on it and not
I don't
take
want
the
to spend
time
more
to,
money.
yeah, or they don't want to dig deep
Hmm.
enough to really find out, well, why? To ask the why.
Hmm.
Why are we not
Hmm.
making as much money as we should? Why is our house not renting as much? But
Hmm.
when so I grew up, we talked a little bit off camera, but I grew up a lot up in the northern Minnesota area. My dad was from the Iron Range up in Minnesota, so we'd always every summer go out to the lakes. We had
Hmm.
a great little lake up there called Lake Leander. Absolutely loved this little lake. But these cabins, back then, when I was growing up, those cabins were maybe 25, $30,000. They're really inexpensive. Now they're,
Oh my gosh.
200,000 type count. They're a lot more money to say the
Hmm.
least. And for me, I've always wanted to have a place up there and rent it. But up there, you've got like maybe a 3-month rental period, and that's about it. So I don't even see how you can get some use and rent the property when you're getting into a seasonal area like that, that's highly seasonable, and you just don't have as much room to rent and to stay when you want to stay.
Yeah, some of that is true, but some of it, if you were only a visitor of Minnesota, you would absolutely say the summer is when you make the most money. Honestly, like people are moving out and about doing that. So in the winter, it is cold here. And,
Mm.
like honestly, I've been alive and I've seen it be negative 60
Oh,
degrees. I know it's absolute like it shouldn't even be words that get to fall out of my mouth, but it's true. And Iron Range, it's probably even colder up there. It wouldn't surprise me if they've seen negative 70 or something stupid. But I think knowing what your capacity is, knowing that maybe you can like there's plenty of people that just open up for a certain amount of time and then leave and then they shut everything down. Like I know people who are pretty far up in Ely and they would do that. They'll just shut down for the winter.
yeah.
But there is a lot of winter play happening in
Mm.
Minnesota and Wisconsin and these northern states. We live here. We know it's cold, so we don't care as much. So then you just start thinking about the snowmobilers, You start thinking about the ice fishing people.
Yeah.
You think about the skiers, cross country, like snowshoers, like all of these people. So there's actually another round of humans that do come about. But then you also like weather matters so much in short-term rental land. It's so crazy that it can dictate so much of our lives. But because last year we didn't get any snow. So truly like a lot of these festivals, a lot of like there was no ice. So there's no ice fishermen coming. So you do have to, like you take on some risk no matter what. But then thankfully, up north, at least in some of these states, like just like in the Appalachian Trail, the Smokies and stuff like that, we get beautiful colors. So you do get to
Yeah.
extend it. You extend it into, and we don't usually get snow until probably November. So, and in the Twin Cities, it's actually December or January sometimes. So we do at least avoid some of that. Like I don't have up north properties. I have city properties. So we always have at least a little bit of an influx of people coming. But I think knowing whatever market you're going into, that stuff is important. It is okay to buy in other markets, especially ones that you don't know anything about, but you need to get in there and you need to start building a team, start talking to people. You need to find people you know, like, and trust. Like even if it's an agent, you need to know what seasonality looks like, and you need to temper that opinion with probably three others, because one person might say it's so cold here and you find out that that person likes to go to Florida for the winter. And then you might get two people that love to ice fish that are like, oh my God, it's so fantastic, so many people are around. And you have to temper that with a couple of different opinions. And then there's actually, an analysis that you can do that shows like what's going on in all these markets, as long as you're not just comparing 2020 and 2021
Yeah.
and maybe even 2022, because those are outliers. We don't want to assume that we're going to get those same numbers, but still like knowing that there's differences. I think that's just the importance of, real estate analysis in general.
Yeah, and,
Mm.
and understanding seasonality. Seasonality is
Mm-hmm.
fine. I mean, it's
Yeah.
okay to have a low season, a high season, as long as you take that into account in your cash flows and in your pricing. To make
Yep.
sure that you're going to get the returns that you want. I mean, again, they might have 3 strong months, maybe a fourth, or maybe even a
Yep.
couple of the winter sport months. But at the same time, the prices are low enough where
Uh-huh.
you can accommodate that cash flow and still get a good return on your investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like our seasons, like I just talked to a guy from New Mexico because I'm learning how to do our seasons with the motel. He has 7 different seasons he prices for. He literally prices for like, you know, just the normal like fall, spring, summer, winter, and then he prices for like there's a crazy month that he has that does like his crazy summer month. So they can actually put their prices up even further that month. And then he has like a deer opener and like a fishing opener or something, like actual hunting. And that's the kind of stuff in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Like we're not looking like we're not a vacation rental market. People aren't coming here to see our beaches because we have beaches, but they are nothing like Florida.
Very different.
Or Costa Rica. Yeah, very, very different. But we still do have them and we do have really gorgeous things. It's just making sure that we know why people would be coming to this area, like ice fishing. Like a lot of people in the world don't even know what ice fishing is, but it means in Minnesota and Wisconsin and a couple other places, lakes literally freeze. They might have up to 4 feet of ice that we sit on. And then people drop little lines, like fishing lines, in the hole to literally catch fish in the wintertime. People are just baffled by that. But that kind of season, oh my God, it helps us because that means those fishermen, they want a warm place to go to when they're done fishing because they just sat on the lake for, 5 hours. So it's just knowing like what's awesome about your market and who are those people that you want to bring in. Like, I mean, the guest avatar matters so much in
My
things like this.
my family loves ice fishing, and I don't know if they're really fishing out there. They drop the lines in the water. I go into these houses, and sometimes these ice houses are nicer than the
Okay,
cabin,
yes. Yes,
right? They've got
absolutely. Yeah.
they're decked out. They've got all their fully stocked bar. So I don't
Yep,
know,
they have
maybe
bathrooms in them. Yep.
yeah,
Mhm.
but maybe that could be a business in itself. Maybe we'll start to do Airbnbs for ice houses.
They're already out there,
Oh
bud.
my gosh,
Like
of
for
course they are.
real. Like but we those aren't our guest avatar. We want the guys that are a little too cheap to pay, $20,000 for that kind of fish house. We want the people that just have the like, they're sitting out there on a bucket because they still exist too. So they're a little too cheap to pay for that, but they're not too
Oh.
cheap to pay for the motel room or the cabin.
Sitting up there in that weather on a bucket, not my thing. Not my thing.
It's not, but it's all
No,
right. You
no,
know
no.
what? I bet you like beaches. If you've got a place in Costa Rica, that means you like beaches and you like tropical beauty, which I feel like everybody should. But I know I could probably tell you 50 people from my hometown that sounds like a nightmare to them. But it's going up to Mille Lacs Lake in northern Minnesota or going up to the Iron Range to sit on a bucket, that's totally their jam. And that's the beauty of real estate and short-term rentals is that not everybody is the same. And that's what we're looking for is you're looking for who are the people that you want to accommodate, who are the people that are important to make you money, and like how can you make something cool for them? Like you can, rent them the buckets
Yeah.
that they sit
No, no,
on.
it's the beautiful thing about the business, just the beautiful thing about people too. So many
Yeah.
people, everybody's different. Everybody wants something else. And you got to find your people. You got to find the people that you're going to attract into your life and into your properties, and you service them the best that you can. Go for those 5 stars. And, there's so many things that I really thought we were going to get into today. But we've had a great conversation. I mean, we've got so much information. Now, I think we can do this again. We're running out of time today to keep going, but
Mhm.
well, I'd love to get on another call with you too, because there's so many other things that I'd like to talk to you about. So many things. You're so knowledgeable in so many of these different areas, and you're just a wealth of knowledge right now. So I wish we could have about another
Thanks.
hour to talk, but I do want people to be able to find you too, because I know there's so much information they can get when they leave this podcast. So where do people need to go to find you?
Yeah, so I hang out the most on Instagram and it's Tanya Rooney MN. So it's Tanya. Rooney is Rooney and MN for Minnesota because whoever has Tanya Rooney on Instagram will not sell it to me or answer their messages.
Yeah.
So Tanya Rooney MN, and then I've got a website, www.tanyarooney.com. And yeah, that's where I probably hang out the most. And then I have my own podcast as well where we talk about tribes, we talk about real estate, talk about all the cool things about life in communities, I guess. And you can find that wherever you listen to any podcast.
That'll be awesome. And one
Mhm.
last question.
Mhm.
So if you could impart on our listeners the most valuable piece of advice, this might be to the person just coming in, it might be to that intermediate person looking to grow their business. What would that piece of advice be from you?
I always talk about community, tribe. Like I know that like it's cliche to say because I have a podcast named Tribe Builders, but I am such a big, huge cheerleader for building your community. Anything that you want to do, you can do better by learning from other people. There's best practices out there. There's things like the reason I know I was leaving money on the table was all because of somebody else in my tribe that just made a random comment. We weren't even talking about pricing. We weren't talking about anything to do with what she like the gold nugget just fell out of her mouth and I was like, "Oh, I should pick this up." And weird, it did have gold. Oh my gosh. So I think surrounding yourself with people is really really important. There's tons of free Facebook groups out there. I'm not the biggest cheerleader of free Facebook groups though because you tend to get a lot more shade thrown at you when you're like, "Oh, I want to do this." Like me saying I'm not going to give a refund. Well, 40 people are going to think that that's an awful thing that I would ever say, but I want to be surrounded by business owners that are care about their business, that want to, continue to do their business. So I surround myself with those kinds of people. So find your friends. Like friends in hosting is really important. We go through some really gross stuff. That first time you get the 4 star, you don't want to tell your like spouse, you don't want to tell your best friend from high school because then you might find out that she doesn't give 5 stars ever. And things
Mhm.
like that are real life. So find your people, whatever business it is. Like I don't even care what it is. It's just you need to find a couple of people that are going to support you in those goals, and they're going to commiserate with you. They're going to help you, figure out how to deal with that sewer problem, how to deal with the cleaners that you need to hire, like that kind of stuff. So my biggest advice is find people to commiserate with.
Love it. Tanya, so thankful for you to come on the show today. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys all reach out to Tanya, take a look at what she's doing. Wealth of knowledge. Like I said, we're going to do this again, but thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Rodman. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Vacation Property Secrets podcast. If you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. By leaving a review, you not only support the show, but you also help others find and enjoy it just like you did. Also, please share this episode with somebody who could benefit from it. And if you're aiming to build a short-term vacation rental investment business that's based on strong investment fundamentals and not just emotion, I'd love to invite you to a free training that I'm hosting. It's my financial forecasting for maximum vacation home profitability training, an on-demand video course that's completely free. It walks you through the investment fundamentals to build and scale your short-term vacation rental business. You'll also learn how to estimate investment income and your operating expenses to build a projected pro forma operating statement and the potential NOI and return on investment for your property. Just go to vacationpropertysecrets.com to get access to your free training. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Vacation Property Secrets Podcast.